Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? I've been asked this enough now that I figured it warranted time on the show, so I figured we'd do it here. The Saints quarterback situation has been, the singular biggest storyline this entire offseason in New Orleans. And that's saying something considering you have a new coach. The firing DA, hiring Kellen Moore thing has not been the driver. It's been Derek Carr's injury. Is he back? The contract restructure, and then ultimately drafting Tyler Shuck before we even knew that Derek Carr was going to be retired. And this quarterback situation has been massive. And naturally, one of the things that I've talked a good bit about is the need to bring in a veteran. And my feeling, just to be very clear, is not that you need to bring in a veteran to make you better today, to help you compete now. Because I don't think this roster, even with an established veteran quarterback, is competing for anything of significance. They're not going to be a playoff team. Like, I think you could take Patrick Mahomes, put him on the Saints today. They're not a playoff team. You may roll your eyes at that. We saw Drew Brees in a Hall of Fame career have back-to-back 7 and 9 seasons. They're really good on offense. Defense was atrocious. I don't think the Saints have fixed all of their personnel issues that even with an elite quarterback would be a playoff team. My feeling has been they need to add a veteran as sort of a stabilizer to take pressure off of these young guys while they grow and learn and develop. And we've seen the benefits of that. We saw Patrick Mahomes get the opportunity to sit for a year behind Alex Smith before starting in his second year. We saw Aaron Rodgers sit behind Brett Favre. Jordan Love sit behind Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there is a methodology there that makes sense. So anyway, but my feeling there has been you can add a veteran quarterback in veteran free agency, someone like Teddy Bridgewater, or you wait to see what happens in Cleveland or New York, and there's probably going to be veteran quarterbacks who end up on the open market that you could bring in. What's been suggested is a dramatically different approach, and it's the possibility of trading for Tua. Now, to be very clear, I have not seen this from anyone reputable. It's not to say someone reputable hasn't reported on this. What I think has happened, as best as I can connect the dots, is somebody somewhere put out a hypothetical like the Saints should trade, like the Dolphins might be looking to move Tua, and so who naturally are the quarterback needy teams? The Saints are one of them. So someone follows that path and goes, okay, here's why the Saints should trade for Tua. I think that's how this happened. I don't think the Saints are calling Miami about Tua. And I don't know that Miami's out there shopping Tua around. Maybe they are. I just don't cover the Dolphins, and I don't know what internally is going on there. But I think there are two very different questions here. Number one is whether or not Tua is a better option than anyone you presently have. And to me, the answer to all of us should unequivocally be, of course. Of course, Tua is a better option than anyone you have. Tua has played 5 NFL seasons, and he was 27 years old. He's 38-24 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. His 2022 and 2023 seasons were actually outstanding, and that's why he got the contract extension he did. In 2023, he started all 17 games, threw for 4,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and the Dolphins went 11-6. I mean, that's outstanding. I mean, that's what your expectation is when you take a guy with a top 10 pick at quarterback, which is what the Dolphins did with Tua back in 2020. So at his best, he's obviously a much better option than anyone you have, but I don't think that's the question. The other question is, should you trade for him? And for me, the answer there is a resounding no. And I want to work through some reasons. I think there's 4 primary reasons why that's not a good idea. One is what I just mentioned. Your roster is not good enough to win now. If you are a quarterback away from being a contender, then I would say, hot damn, let's go. And you've seen situations like that. I mean, the 49ers had a great roster a couple of years ago. There was a stretch where I would argue the Niners had the best roster in the NFL. They're a quarterback away. And they kind of got lucky and drafted Brock Purdy. They went through a lot of different guys, thought maybe Jimmy G was the guy, but ultimately Jimmy G got him to a Super Bowl. Now they've paid Brock Purdy. Minnesota feels like one of those teams that's an elite quarterback away. Was Darnold that guy? Maybe. I mean, they won 14 games a year ago. Maybe it's J.J. McCarthy. We'll see. But you can look at rosters at times and go, okay, what quarterback is elevating a good roster to be in a great team? Like Joe Burrow is a great example of that. Joe Burrow statistically was the best quarterback in the NFL a year ago. He elevated a bad Bengals team to the brink of the playoffs because he had an all-pro caliber season. His roster, though, around him just isn't good enough. Then there's times where you have rosters that are good enough, they're missing the one piece. The Saints are neither of those. They're a bad roster with a bad quarterback situation. That's not my opinion. The odds makers, you know the people whose job is to set lines to make money. With Derek Carr, the Saints were projected 5.5 wins. Derek Carr retires, they're docked 1 win. They're down to 4.5 is their over-under projection. So that's to say, even with Derek Carr, they were at 5.5 wins. Let's say you replace Carr with Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, whoever you think is the best quarterback in the NFL. What's that player worth? Let's call it 4 wins. Okay, so you're a 8-9, 9-8 team. I mean, you're still not a contender. You're better, but you're not a contender. So that's number one. You're not a quarterback away. Number two is an obvious one, which are the injury concerns with Tua. In 5 seasons, he's played a full lot of games once, and that was 2023. As a rookie, he played in 10 games. In 2021, he played in 13. 2022, he played in 13. In 2023, he played the full 17-game season, and then this last year, he missed 6 games. So that's just part of the narrative or the conversation with Tua. He has missed games every season but one. So at 27 years old, with real legitimate concussion issues, can you invest long-term in Tua? It's a very difficult thing to do with confidence because you just don't know if that guy is going to have durability to warrant the type of contract that Miami already gave him with their extension, which is the third. So after the fact that you're not a quarterback away, Tua's got injury concerns, there's the cost. Miami gave Tua a 4-year, $212 million contract extension that runs through 2029. So, remember I say it all the time, when you trade for a player, and usually it's the other way, because we're talking about it from the Saints, when people are like, oh, the Saints should trade their veteran players. That sounds great. But when you're trading, remember, you're not just trading the player or trading for the player, you're trading for the player's contract as well. So when you look at Tua, if you trade for Tua with the contract that Miami gave him, they signed him to a 4-year, $212 million deal that has an average annual value of $53 million. Like, that's a giant problem. I mean, that's the kind of contract that you're going to give the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, you take on that kind of burden for Lamar Jackson, for Josh Allen, for Joe Burrow, for Patrick Mahomes. You don't take on that burden for Tua when he is 27 with a concussion history that is a concern about his longevity, and in 5 seasons he's played a full year once. So that's the other part. And then finally, remember, it's not just taking on the player and his contract. You have to give up assets to get that player. So all of the and if you just look at what trade compensation might look like, here's 4 trades that I looked up in the last 15 years that are similar, where you're trading for an established veteran quarterback. For whatever reason, things went awry and the team that had that player's rights traded him. 2009, Josh McDaniels went to Denver as the head coach, and he trades Jay Cutler to Chicago. It's a pretty good comp. Jay Cutler was a first-round pick. He was an established starter. It was 2 first-round picks, a 3, and Kyle Orton. Chicago sent Denver 2 1s, a 3, and their starting quarterback. If you're New Orleans, would you send Miami 2 1s, a 3, and a starter? I wouldn't. Cincinnati traded Carson Palmer to Oakland. Remember, Palmer said he'd retire if he didn't get traded out of Cincinnati. Joke's on you. They sent you to Oakland. They got a 1 and a 2. Oakland gave up a 1 and a 2 for Carson Palmer. You want to give up a first and a second-round pick for Tua? I wouldn't. Not to turn around and have to spend $53 million a year on a 27-year-old quarterback who's played a full season once and has concussion history. Miami did it in 2019 with Ryan Tannehill. Remember, Ryan Tannehill was a top 10 pick in the draft. They traded him to Tennessee. This one was palatable. They sent him to Tennessee for a 4 and a 7. So the Titans gave up a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick for Ryan Tannehill. That's palatable. If you told me the Saints could send Miami a 4 and a 7 and get Tua, now you've got my attention. I also don't think that's realistic. And most recently, we saw it with Matt Stafford. Detroit traded Stafford to L.A. for 2 1s, a 3, and Jared Goff. Basically, L.A. was willing to send Goff and all the picks to Detroit to take Goff's contract. Remember, L.A. gave Goff the giant contract after they went to the Super Bowl in 2018, but they didn't feel like he was capable of being an elite quarterback. So really that trade was like, hey, we'll give you 2 1s and a 3 to take Goff's contract off our hands and give us the veteran quarterback who we think we can win now with. And it's worked for both teams. Goff has become a legitimate starter in the NFL, and Stafford won a Super Bowl. So that's worked. But would you give up 2 1s, a 3, and a player for Tua? Of course you would. So as I look through it, the only thing that would be palatable is if Miami would take the Tannehill deal. Would you take a 4 and a 7 to get rid of Tua's contract, basically, and start over there in Miami? I don't know that they're willing to do that, but that's about the only thing that I'd be willing to do. And if that's off the table, then I don't know that there's a realistic option. And again, if you missed it as we started this conversation, there's no credible reports out there that this is happening, but I've been asked about this enough by you all that I felt it warranted having the conversation. Your roster's not good enough to win now. Tua's got injury concerns. There's an exorbitant cost associated, and you'd have to send tons of draft capital to Miami. It just doesn't make sense. Oh, by the way, you also just spent the 40th overall pick on a quarterback. So you're going to go through this year, assess what you have with Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and after this season, you have a pretty good idea if you feel like you can build around one of those two guys. And if you can, awesome. You commit resources to building around those two guys. And if after the 2025 season, you look at what you have in Rattler and Shuck and you think, this is not going to be it, then you pivot. And you use a top 10 pick on a quarterback for the first time since Archie Manning, and you build around that player. See how it goes. But pretty confident saying it won't be a trade for Tua. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.